Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining in. Dr. Judy here, Dr. Judy, WTF, What the Freud, and it is toward the end of the year, and I thought let's end with something a little brighter, a little bit more positive, a little bit more optimistic. I can get heavy sometimes and talk about a lot of the heaviness of psychopathology, childhood wounds, and narcissism. So tonight I decided to switch it up. Of course, I'll still contrast it to the other system gone wrong. But I want to talk about sharing and caring and being the light. And I'm inspired, of course, by the holidays and all the light and lighting that I see around my neighborhood, and the lights of Hanukkah and the lights of Christmas, and just the light in people's heart and their desire to share and care on whatever level and in whatever direction you want to express your sharing and caring in. So I want to talk about that, and I want to hear from you, and I want to hear what it feels like for you to share and care, and where you want to put your sharing and caring towards, and really manifesting that, not just thinking, oh, I want to do something, or I want to be more generous, or I want to support a cause, but actually being the cause of supporting a cause. And so that's more of an action thing rather than just thinking about it in your head. This is a call-in show, everyone. So please do call in 323-524-2599. So in order to share, we have to have a full enough vessel to share from. So that means we have to take care of ourselves in order to be the best of our best, so that we can give the world the best of our best. So I'm going to skip over all the nasty parts of my mind map. For those of you who are not familiar with my mind map, it is a system of healing. And you can also get the download of the mind map, and also the PDF copy of my book, and a hard copy through Amazon.com. So basically, there it is. You can have a free copy just by asking, and we'll send it to you, and you can download it on your computer, and it'll explain the entire mind map system. So I'm going to skip over all the nasties: childhood wounds, reactions, horrible core beliefs, chaos, defense mechanisms, and breakdowns, and go straight to sharing and caring. And that would be represented by panel 3, which I call the paradigm shift, which I call really, I'm sorry, I meant panel number 7. Panel number 7. So look at panel number 7, and they do kind of remind me of Christmas ornaments, all of those globes, and then the light in the center. And how does synergy happen? Synergy happens, first of all, when you're capable of being a better me, and then capable of being a better we. And synergy happens when you have two players, usually, one who wants to give, one who wants to receive, and then the receiver also wanting to be a giver, and also the giver wanting to be a receiver. So through this synergistic system of feeding each other and taking turns feeding each other, we generate light. And light is what I call, again, 1 + 1 is greater than 2, because your light and another person's light together makes more light. And that's the only game in town that I know really matters, because the other game, which I'll contrast it to, is the vampiring game. It's the taking game. So if you look at panel number 7, what that produces is the opposite of light. So can you imagine if those bubbles interlapping would be a bubble with darkness in the center, sucking all the energy out, vampiring all the good out, and leaving individuals completely depleted and sick and really burned out. So that's what vampiring looks like. And the vampiring system, which I've talked about quite a lot, is the narcissistic taking system, because when you have a hole in the soul, you just want to take, and fill it up. And unfortunately, it doesn't really fill because there's a hole in the soul. So no matter what you put in there, it's never enough, and it consumes the person in the sense that they're consumed with consuming. And then the people who are consumed in the process, again, they are taken from, and then they are less than. So again, this is a call-in show, and I want to hear from you because we're turning the system 180 degrees around from the taking, vampiring system to the sharing, caring system. Why? Because it's good for you and it's good for the world, and it's generative. Instead of sucking you dry, it generates energy, and energy shared can be then absorbed by other people who want to then become receivers and sharers. So I want to hear from all of you how you might be thinking toward the end of the year. This is a time when people like to donate things, and they like to support causes, and they want to be good-hearted and not like the Grinch of Christmas. So please call in. I want to hear from you how your process has helped you become a better person, how taking care of yourself and healing childhood wounds has made you a better me, so that you can now be part of a system of sharing and caring and generating the light. So I do want to hear from you, and please call in. I prefer that to the chat room of questions, although I'll take questions from the chat room. So I'll tell you a little bit about what I'm doing toward the end of the year. One of the things that I love to do is get rid of stuff. I love to comb through my house and genuinely look at things from the point of view of, am I using it? Is it just taking up space, or is it really bringing me light? And I like to go through this because the more I lighten my load, the freer I feel, and the more I can take the items that I don't use in my home and give it to other people who will use it and will derive joy out of it, the better I feel. So that's an easy way that you can do this. Plus, you'll have a nice, clean, organized house at the end of the deal. So it's good for you and it's good for other people. And really, seriously, if you've got clothes in the closet that you just know that you haven't worn for a long, long time, maybe even years, if you have shoes that are no longer working for you, if you have toys that that your children have outgrown, if you have dishes or pots or anything, then there are plenty of organizations that are really, really happy to take those items and use those items, or even sell those items so that they can use that money toward funding cancer recovery, or whatever organization they are funding. So I really do want to hear from you, because it's important that we share what we want to do, because once we start sharing and talking about it, we tend to turn it into a reality. If I'm just sitting here saying, I want to do this and I want to do that, and then I don't take action, it's kind of wasted light, isn't it? I might have the inspiration in my heart to do it, but then at the end of the day, I don't do it, and the light is squandered. So one of my passions is animals. I just love animals, mainly because I think all my life I've been bonded to them, especially dogs. And I feel such a gratefulness toward animals, because they're capable of really giving and receiving unconditional love, which is very, very soothing and very, very passionate for the heart. So I know we have a call-in, so I'd love to hear from you. And thank you for calling in. Hi, thanks for picking up the phone and dialing in. And what name would you like me to call you?
Dale.
Dale. Oh, hi, Dale. How are you?
Hi. It was a good topic tonight. I thought I'd check in with you.
Thank you so much. So how are you feeling toward the end of the year, or not just toward the end of the year, about sharing your light, which you have a lot of with all the work that you've done?
Just exactly what you said. I, my wife and I both are just clearing out the closets and the cupboards, and
Hmm.
we've gotten rid of so much stuff this year. We've taken probably a dozen loads up to Goodwill, and now
Amazing.
we've got young couples, and we're going through the closets, and we're retired, so we've got a lot of stuff in. As you get older, you start to realize that materialism isn't even anywhere near what it was presented, the consumerism and all of that. It just isn't there, and we have things that we haven't used in years, and but it from somebody else's perspective, it might be real useful, and we have a young couple across the way that has a young baby, and they're maybe needing some help, and we took over all of my wife's old, not old, many of them are brand new in the boxes with tags on them, but shoes, and she took over a dozen of those pairs, and she's just elated,
Oh, I'm
so
sure. I'm
yeah.
sure. So what was sitting around in your closet, in your wife's closet, is somebody's extreme joy of a receive, a receive at the end of the year, a holiday receive. And then
Yeah.
when you're lightened, right, then what happens in your space once you lighten that load?
Well, I went to a seminar years and years ago called Declutter Your Life,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a fascinating topic. It wasn't the main topic of why I went to the seminar. It was for other reasons, but they brought a speaker in and said, I'm going to share some things with you. And he said, um, your brain is like a hard drive. It's a little disk that goes in and out with a read-write arm, and you're always thinking 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I've got to do something with this thing, and then someday I'm going to use that, and someday I'll fix that clock, and someday I'll, wear that shirt. And he says, you're just stressful all the time, under all this stress, because background in the back of your mind are all these things you need to do and take care of. And he says, just do one thing when you go home. Go through your sock drawer and get rid of all the socks you haven't worn in a period of time, or get rid of all the shirts and go through your closet and so on,
Mm-hmm.
and see how you feel. So we did that, and we got rid of 3 or 4 bags of clothes and maybe 20 pairs of shoes that we hadn't worn. All of a
Yeah.
sudden, our closet, you could reach in and put a shirt away so easy, and it was, you were only had what you were actually using, and the stress level went way down. So we expanded that, went to the garage, and then we went outside and got rid of some cars and boats and things we hadn't used or didn't want. And the
Yeah.
next thing you know, you realize that all that stuff is just stressful background. Some days, he said, get rid of all your some days, and he says you'll become a much happier person, and that is exactly what happened.
Get rid of all your Sundays.
Your some SOME, SOME,
Oh,
someday.
oh,
Someday
someday.
I'm going to wear
Someday
that
I'll get rid
shirt.
of this. Someday, got it. Okay, so now you.
Someday someday I'll take the time to use that fishing pole that I've been looking at for the last 5 years. You know, if you're not using it, you're not going to use it in the next 5 years. So give it to the neighbor or kid that wants to go fishing. You see what I'm saying?
I do, and that's why I chose this topic, because that fishing pole in your garage or your closet is really not generating any light for you, because it's the someday I'll go fishing, but when is that going to happen? In the meantime, we have somebody who genuinely likes to use that item, wants to use that item, maybe can't afford to buy one, or would be delighted to save money and just have it. And now that fishing pole that's been sitting in the dark, literally in your closet, is being used. And when it's being used, it's generating light. So that's what I'm
Now
suggesting.
you've got
Mm-hmm.
now you've got a little neighbor boy who's got his own pole, and he owns it, and he can go out and use it, and he'll have a smile on his face because it's his, and he's got a future, and he'll use it, and I hope he enjoys it for the rest of his life.
Isn't that
And
beautiful?
so it goes that way with everything. We had a Cuisinart, a large, with all of the attachments and everything,
Mm-hmm.
and we gave that away. I think I've used it 2-3 times in the last 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
and the person that received it is just excited as can be to all the things that they can possibly do with it this holiday season. So it's stuff like that. And now our kitchen cupboards are getting free, and you don't need 18 bottle openers and wine openers,
Right,
and
right, and
just
bowls, and yeah.
and oddball dishes and cups and all kinds of, just declutter your life and get rid of all the some days, and you'll find your stress level going down, 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 down.
I have definitely, and when I looked into my tool shed about a week or two ago, I just looked at it and thought, "Oh my God, this is so unapproachable." And then I said, "Stop it, just stop it. Just take a box out." And then it turned into two boxes, and then it turned into looking at all the little things on the on the counter and deciding that haven't used it in a long time, so I'm just going to toss it or put it in a bag and give it to somebody. And then that turned into a little bit of an inspiration for me to go through other things in my house. So out of that, I ended up painting my living room, decluttering my living room, and then moving now to the kitchen, and then decluttering my office, and that's next. And it's things that looked very ominous are now looking like possibilities. Like, okay, so what if I spend 5 minutes or 10 minutes a day attacking my paperwork and just deciding what I'm never gonna use again? Well, what if it's only five? Add it up: 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day, right? So that's maybe half an hour a week, 40 minutes a week. You know how much paperwork you can get rid of, or how many boxes you can empty and reorganize. So I think part of the overwhelm in our heads translates into overwhelm in our space. And I should do a show on cluttering, because I think you're right that when we're all cluttered up, we can't really think clearly, we can't move freely, and it just sort of blocks our light. So in terms of what you and your wife did, okay, so you became, I'll look at it this way: you guys have become alchemists, because you've turned the darkness into light. And it's easy to do. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand that that pair of shoes that's been sitting there is really, really going to be appreciated by the lady across the street. So, what a great feeling to go over there and just knock on her door and present her with a dozen shoes. Wow, I'm sure she felt pretty great about that.
Well, she got to choose what she wanted. There were a lot more than a dozen that she looked at, and she
I
ended up
see.
with those, and she had a big smile on her face. And her husband was happy, and everything's going good. So, but it's like you walk into your closet. This was the example that the speaker said at the seminar. He said, "How many of you iron your shirts, get them all ready, and then you go back to the closet to hang them up, and you have to literally force the other shirts apart to find a space to put the newly ironed shirts in?" And he says, and you're just barely getting them in, and you're scrunching them all up and everything. And he says they're probably getting de-ironed as you're putting them back. And he says, if
Yeah.
you got rid of all of those shirts you weren't wearing, you could have
Mhm.
an inch space between each one and only wear the ones. He says, get to that point where you get rid of all of those that you're not wearing, and you'll be surprised at how much less stress and how much fun life can be. We did that, and you have to do it every couple of years. You have to hit yourself and say, I got to declutter again, because
Agreed.
it's human nature to keep accumulating.
Right.
But that was an awakening, and I've given that example to many people, and they've said we've done it and it's working. And so that's the light that I think people should consider, is that simplify your life and focus on what's important,
Mm-hmm.
and you will lower your stress mega amounts.
Remember Marie Kondo? She had a book and a method called the Kondo method of sparking joy. So you organize according to categories. So she would say, take all your clothes out of the closet and put them on your bed, just all of them, pull them out. And then look them over and ask yourself, when was the last time you wore this shirt or pants or item? And then you ask yourself, does this item really spark joy? Does it really spark joy? And if it doesn't move you, if it doesn't light you up in some way, time to say goodbye. Because maybe it'll spark joy in somebody else. And then the other one is, oh, I have to hang on to this one because when I lose weight, I will look so good in this item. And, the when I lose weight thing goes on and on and on. And 3 years later, you're still not fitting into the item, but you're thinking, when I do, I'll look great in the item. And unfortunately, it doesn't really always work to have these someday, as you said, someday I'll look good in it, or someday I will wear it. If it's been sitting there.
Well, those are the background stresses in your mind. That's what he said. You have your little hard drive, and your little computer brain is thinking about all of these some days, and he says it just wears you out. He says you'll wake up in the middle of the night thinking about all these some days. I've got to go fix this, or I've got to take care of that. He says get rid of all those some days, and he says you'll have a peaceful sleep. You won't have to worry about them. They're gone. Like someday I'll use that fishing pole. I've got to go out and use that fishing pole. And honey, when are you going to use this fishing pole? I'm tired of looking at it in the closet. Well, someday I'm going to use it. Well, if it's gone, you don't have to have that conversation anymore, you see.
Right. And it really fits into the what the Freud idea, because what the Freud really means that you're repeating things over and over, and you're repeating these conversations over and over in your head. And if the file isn't closed, right, if there's no closure on that item, it will stick out like a sore thumb, and it will keep bothering you and taking up, what did you say, hard drive space in your head. And then how are you supposed to have peace, right? So in the name of peace, right, because that's what we're singing, have a peaceful, healthy, joyous new year. In the name of peace and completion, finish the file, lighten the load, get rid of all the things in the hard drive, as Dale is saying, that is taking up space and really disrupting your peace. So I really...
To prove this to yourself, to prove it to yourself, he said, start on something small. Start on your sock drawer or your underwear drawer or your shoes. And he says, and get rid of those that are just not ever going to be worn again. He says, once you prove it on one of those small things, he says, then you can move on to the bigger things. But start at least on one drawer in your dresser and find out how much relief that gets. So that's my advice for the night.
I love it. I just had a psychological twist on it, of course, because my brain works that way, is since we're trying to get rid of people that don't work for us or put boundaries on them or really cut them out of our lives, which is part of the house cleaning, which maybe I'll talk about next. It could be a metaphor when you get rid of clothes that don't serve you, or clothes that actually don't even feel good on your body anymore. It can be a metaphor for all the things in life that don't serve you, including jobs, including friends, including any kind of relationship. So you can turn it into this metaphor, and it starts small, but at the end, it just applies to everything, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. There you go. You've just expanded it to decluttering your life fully.
Decluttering your life fully. So I really appreciate your sharing this, because I think that people are sitting in their homes and they're opening drawers. They could barely close the doors or the closet in some cases, because the darn things are sticking out and you've got to shove it all back in. It just feels so good to pull out all that stuff and maybe just put it in a corner and go through it box by box and bit by bit, and be rigorously honest with yourself. If you're not going to use it, if it's a someday, then today you put it in another box and you give it to somebody that can enjoy the light of that. That's how you can become an alchemist, because you're turning the darkness into somebody's light.
And I think if somebody's inclined to be in the kitchen, look in your spice cabinet. I thought, well, I'm going to finally pull all the spices out, and I'm going to check the expiration dates, and I'm going to see what we can actually use or don't use. Yeah. I got rid of over half of the things in there, and it made it so pleasurable to see what was actually there.
Yeah, and don't you find, and I'm asking everybody out there to think about this, that when you don't know where things are, it takes so long to find them. But when things are really nicely organized, when you have all of the bowls in one drawer, you have all of the the socks nicely in one drawer, not just thrown around in a bunch of drawers, it makes life smooth and slicker, and then you can move better. And in the morning, you don't have to look for things because they're just in their place. And the human brain loves order. Why do you think I talk about chaos so much? Okay, chaotic relationships, chaotic life. We don't like to be upside down. We don't like in systems that are unsustainable. We don't like disorganization. Our brain craves order. And this is just a simple, easy way to bring order into your life. And I think that's a great idea. Start with your sock drawer.
Okay. Well, I'll leave you with that, and have a good holiday and a new year if I don't talk to you sooner.
Thank you very, very much, Dale. Same to you and your wife. Take care.
Okay, good night.
Okay. And I think we might have a question in the chat room. I'll take that if there is one.
No questions at the moment, so if anybody wants to leave a question, please write it in the chat room.
Yeah, but I think people are getting the drift that it's the end of the year. We want peace, we want order, we want everything decluttered in our minds so that we can really pay attention to the important things. And so let's talk a little bit about decluttering relationships. And although we can't give people away, right, like an article of clothing, it's important that we start reevaluating what brings us light, the synergy phenomenon. 1 + 1 is greater than 3. And we all know people who add to our light, and we also know people who detract from our light. And then there's always a group of people that are sort of in the neutral category. And it's really important to play a better game of life, because if you are going to be playing with people who are zapping your energy, expect to be tired, expect to be angry, expect to be disappointed, and expect to be less than who you are. And so we have to be very, very careful who we surround ourselves with. And I'm not suggesting go out there and drop everybody in your life, but yeah, evaluate them. Why not? Why not evaluate them? And then you can shift the boundaries around. If you feel that somebody's taking more than they're giving, well, then maybe back it up a little bit and stop giving them so much, and just dial down the giving so that you don't feel so depleted by them. And then there's always a group of people that I call it like popcorn. They're nice to go to the movies with or have dinner with, but they're not just necessarily going to add that much value to your life. And I think what I find is that the people that I work with who are growing and they're deepening their understanding of themselves and other people, they crave more connection. They crave deeper, more connected, more fulfilling relationships. So if you're growing and the people around you are not growing, then you might want to adjust how much time you spend with them or what you want to talk about with them. And worst case scenario, like I was talking to one of my patients today, and she was telling me how the conversations have to be reduced to pretty much how's the soup, how's the salad, how's the movie. So kind of like more of a very neutral type of conversation, because a lot of people, as you all know, are not that healthy and are easily activated. And if they're not growing and working on their childhood wounds and reactions and core beliefs and so on, then they're just easily activated, and that doesn't make them very, very pleasant to be around. And so one of the things that I want to offer everybody is a big discount on my mind map video series. Okay, so it's usually $195 between now and the first week. I want to offer it for $100. Okay, that's $95 off. And you'll learn a lot. I really, really want everybody to learn the system. So please take advantage of it. And Tony, maybe put that up on the screen. It's the mind map video series that people can purchase. And what it is you get a PDF, obviously, of the book, of the journal, and then you get a process that I created and I conduct, and it is me standing in front of my mind map and breaking it down for you so that you can understand and process your childhood wounds, how you encoded them, how they tore you down, and how they morphed out. So all you have to do is call my clinic, 310-739-4491, or go to my website and remind me about my offer, and you get $95 off of this, and you can learn the mind map. Why do you want to learn the mind map? Because you don't want to keep repeating things. You don't want these open files in your head. You don't want to do the what the Freud over and over again. You want to learn boundaries so you don't invite people into your life that are going to vampire you and leave you feeling down and out and depleted and taken advantage of. So once you learn, then you see the truth. And once you see the truth, you become less naive and less vulnerable. And that's what I'd like for you. This holiday season, what I'd really like for you is to learn and become less vulnerable so that you can be the cause of creating more light for yourself. Because the better and healthier you are, the more you can be the light for yourself and other people. And especially parents, because the childhood wounds are multi-generational. They trickle down from grandma, grandpa, great-grandma, great-grandpa. And if this is all trickling down into this generation, then we as parents have a responsibility to process our wounds and heal so that we don't hand them down to the next generation. And so then we're raising a generation of children who are securely attached, children that have boundaries, children who know how to assess people, children who are not suckers to vampires, narcissists, children who understand the concept and the value of sharing and caring, children who possess empathy. And that's really, really important, because if you don't have empathy, then you're not connected to the other individual. And then you can use and abuse, and you don't feel it. So what? So what if they're hurting? You don't feel their pain. And that's a horrible way to raise a child. And it's a horrible way for you to go through life. So I really suggest that you learn this. Okay, so remind me about the discount, and it's yours. So please call in. I want to hear from you, because we're talking about sharing, and we're talking about receiving, and we're talking about being the light. So why do I talk about receiving as part of being the light? Well, in order for us to share, we can't be an empty vessel. So that means we have to receive. And what is it that we need to receive? I'm talking about from the beginning what we need to receive from our family of origin, namely mother, father, is we need to receive eye contact, skin contact. We need to receive stimulation. We need to receive mirroring and attunement. And in general, we need to be in an environment of unconditional love. Because when we soak in all of those psychological goodies, as I like to refer to, then what we become is a better, more centered, more peaceful, less reactionary, uh, 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 version of ourselves. And so, with that, we're now able to be givers because we're overflowing with abundance. So, we're overflowing with that light that I'm talking about. And so, if you haven't had the good fortune to have parents who nurture you and attune to you and mirror you and give you all of the security that all of us deserve, then we have to share with ourselves and care about ourselves and feed ourselves so that we can become better versions. So, what does that mean specifically? Well, it specifically means to me self-care. Okay, what's self-care? Self-care is simple. It's about caring about yourself. If you're tired, attend to it. If you're hungry, attend to it. If you feel that you are, excuse me, sneeze coming and not coming out. Okay, if you feel that you need to sneeze, okay, so then allow yourself to sneeze, or if you're in public, grab a Kleenex. Take care of yourself. Of course, take care of other people around you, but take care of yourself. That also means eating properly. That also means exercising, prayer, meditation, anything that's going to fill you and fulfill you, because people can get filled. Okay, so what's the difference between filling yourself and fulfilling yourself? There's a huge difference. You can fill yourself with McDonald's hamburgers and you'll be nice and full, or you can fulfill yourself with eating steamed broccoli and carrots and protein and organic foods, and then you will feel fulfilled. So, just so that you understand more about this, we all like instant gratification. I love macaroni and cheese, for example, or I like chocolate, or I like Haagen-Dazs ice cream. They really fill me, and I feel an immediate gratification. The question that I ask myself, and of course I'm not perfect, I'll indulge sometimes, but the question I ask myself is not only how am I going to feel eating it right now, how am I going to feel an hour later or 2 hours later? And at this age and stage, I could tell you, a few hours later, or maybe not much time later, I will start feeling heavy. My energy will start to drop. I might even feel heartburn. I might feel just a general sense of blah. So don't be fooled by quick light, okay? The quick light of immediate gratification. It's not really light. It might light you up for a minute or 2 or 5 minutes. I'm talking about all of it. I'm talking about drugs, alcohol, junky food, anything that lights you up and gives you that buzz and gives you that quick fix. But it's not real light because it doesn't generate. As a matter of fact, if you look at it carefully, it's not the 1 + 1 is greater than 2 phenomenon, because it leaves you feeling less than. So why am I mentioning it? Because the holidays are coming up, and we've got chocolate and candy and peppermint canes and I don't know what around us, but we're going to go into festivity. So great, enjoy it within reason. And so I'm a big fan of better bad foods. So if I'm going to eat chocolate, then I'll try to eat organic chocolate with stevia instead of sugar. If I'm going to chew gum, I'd rather chew gum that is not artificially sweetened. If I'm going to eat something that is heavy, I'm going to try to have fresher, more organic ingredients that make up that recipe. And so it's up to you again to be the cause of better outcomes for your life. So when you're talking about sharing and receiving, you also want to share with your guests better foods, because they might be going, ooh, wow, how delicious. And then they'll walk away with this massive headache and sugar high and an upset stomach. So you can do your best to just make those ingredients delicious and have a beautiful table set with better foods that people are actually going to enjoy. And when they ingest it, it's going to create a better effect than headaches and stomach aches and weight gain and bloatedness and so on and so forth. So I hope you're catching the drift that sharing and caring touches so many areas of our lives. It touches who we're going to choose into our lives as friendships and relationships. It touches how we're going to organize our closet and lighten our head. It includes what we're going to put into our bodies and how we're going to nourish ourselves and self-care so that we have more to give. And after all, you see, we're the ones having to wake up every morning and go to work and earn a living and do the dishes and make life happen. So we've got to take care of this human being that we are, because if we don't, we're going to stop functioning so well. And then we're going to be hit up with lethargy and disease and so on. And so we've got to share, don't forget, and care, not only about other people, we have to share and care about ourselves. And so I don't know if there's anybody else that wants to ask a question or get in the chat room and talk. I just thought this was a very important topic for everybody because, again, holiday season, it's all about generosity and sharing, and the opposite, the Grinch who stole Christmas, and then the Grinch who became a better person and grew a heart. And that's what we want to do. We want to grow a heart, and then we want to manifest it, because it's not good enough to just hold it in our heads. So sometimes it's good to do it with a partner. So if you're going to clean out a closet, maybe a friend can do it with you, and then you both go down to the Salvation Army, or you both figure out where you want to donate all of the extra stuff. So there's power in numbers, and obviously people who do good deeds together, they tend to really appreciate each other, and they tend to grow their relationship, because there's nothing like two people synergizing, giving more to the world, and then having an appreciation for each other in terms of bringing out each other's light. So I hope you all appreciate this 1 + 1 is greater than 3 phenomenon, and what happens when you don't have that, and how depleted and run down we can get, because we're only human. And it's important to share with ourselves and care about ourselves so that we can expand that light to other human beings. And if there are no more questions in the chat room, I just want to reiterate that I'm discounting the Mind Map video series. I'm taking $95 off. So for $100, you can receive the series. Please request it so that I can make sure to give you that discount. And it's with pleasure, because I really want people to learn this. And please subscribe to the channel, pay it forward. And if you get a PDF copy of the book, then feel free to send it to your mother, brother, cousin, boss, friend, whoever you care about to expand their psycho-spiritual growth. And that's what we're here for, to be growth partners. So I hope I'm imparting some information that's helping you grow. And if anybody wants to call in last minute, I'll give it another little while to take another phone call or another question in the chat room. And please feel free to do that. And of course, you can always call and request a free consultation. I have a beautiful team of people on staff, and we'll continue to put out these shows. And I just want to tell everyone how amazing it is for me to make a difference, even a small difference in your lives. And thank you so much for taking in anything that I say. And I hope that it is, even if it's a little bit, I hope it furthers your life. And for me, there's no better feeling than to make a difference to another person's life. So try it out. And also, I really want to emphasize giving to animals. There are so many beautiful dogs and cats out there, and these shelters are brimming with lonely animals. It breaks my heart. So if you have the heart to adopt an animal, even to foster an animal, please do that. They really, really, really need human protection, because unfortunately, a lot of them don't have that kind of protection. And they, like us, very, very much need to be loved and cared for and have a safe space. And it's amazing when you offer a dog or a cat or any animal a safe space, you open up your heart. And I think that's a real pathway to grow, is by sharing and caring for another living being. And for those of you who have extra blankets or extra toys or what have you, why not wrap it up, put it in your car or truck, and drive down to a shelter and give this to the animals. And I can go on and on. I mean, there are so many people. There are people who are in homeless shelters. There are foster children. I mean, the need is endless. And so for those of you who have the heart, I hope that I've inspired some of you out there to really be the light and do the utmost that you can to make somebody's life easier and animals' life easier. Declutter your life, because that's what you'll get out of it, and be the light. So any questions in the chat room?
I actually have two, and one of them I'm going to add on to, because it is the holidays. And the question is it wise to reconnect with an aging narcissistic parent and continue to stay no contact? I mean, now that it's the holidays, I guess you could add on, is that a time to reconnect?
Well, I think that the fact that you asked the question means that you have something in your heart maybe that you want to do for your aging narcissistic parent. And, if we're going to take the compassionate route, as long as your parent is not hurting you and demeaning you, devaluing you, violating your boundaries, if they're old and you want to honor them as parents in any way, shape, and form, if you have it in your heart to do that, sure, why not? As long as, I'm putting this caveat in, as long as you don't let them get in under your skin and injure you, and as long as you don't walk away feeling less than. So, unfortunately, I know only too well that narcissism is a result mainly of childhood wounds of smothering and controlling and overvaluing, spoiling a child, and then undervaluing and demeaning a child or emotionally neglecting them. So probably your parents are alone and narcissistic because they never healed. And so if you have the heart to take a warm meal to them, and also do it for yourself. If it makes you feel like a better person, why not? And it's reminding me of a patient that I worked with years and years ago, and her mother was extremely cruel and narcissistic. And yet, at the end of her life, you don't have to do this, you're not required to do this. She built her mother a little wing as an add on to her house, and she just got pleasure out of taking care of her mother, and she didn't expect anything from her. And not much changed. Maybe the mother got a little softer and they hugged and kissed once in a while, but mainly she knew that the mother was old and dying, and that's what she wanted to do. So she did it for herself. I hope that answers that question.
That did. I think that was great. And then the
Okay.
last question, it says, question, what is the most common problem for your clients? Self-esteem, shyness, anger, anxiety, or etc.?
You know, it's a big question, and I could say all of the above. I would say defense mechanisms blocking them, okay? Because they're so hurt that the defense mechanisms actually are designed to protect, but they don't end up protecting. So defense mechanisms can be something like, ooh, I hurt, so I want to numb the pain, so I'll drink a lot or I'll do drugs, or I don't want to hurt, so I'll cut my heart out and I won't feel anymore, or I don't want to hurt, so therefore I'll overeat or push everybody away. So it's really, that's what really gets us, is we don't want pain. We don't know how to set boundaries. And so sometimes we go too far. So we just will cut our feelings off or push people away or use substances to numb our pain. And that's a really, really big problem. Look around and you'll see everyone defending themselves. And on a global basis, what's the problem on the planet? Defense mechanisms. We're not synergizing. We're not 1 + 1 = 3. We're afraid of each other. We're paranoid. We're selfish. We want to possess. We want power and control. And so we attack, and then we defend, and then we attack some more, and we defend some more. So I would say that. So if there are no other questions or comments, I want to wish everyone a very, very happy holiday season. Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, whatever holiday that you're celebrating. I hope you're around people and animals that you love, and don't forget to be the light. Thank you very, very much, everyone. And also don't forget to take me up on my offer, $95 off of the mind map video series. I want everyone to learn it. So thank you so much for calling in and checking in and asking questions, and mainly for allowing me to be some level of light to you. Good